When my parents stormed into my office that rainy afternoon, their faces twisted with a rage I'd never seen before, I felt the ground shift beneath me. "How could you hide this from us?" my mother spat, waving a printed article about my company's latest valuation. My net worth splashed across the page like some dirty secret. I sat there, heart pounding, the scent of wet wool from their coats filling the room, wondering how my quiet success had turned into this betrayal. It wasn't always like this. Growing up in our small two-bedroom house on the edge of town, life was simple, threaded with the quiet hum of necessity. My father worked long hours at the factory, his hands always stained with grease, coming home to the smell of my mother's homemade stew simmering on the stove. I was the middle child, sandwiched between an older brother who dreamed big but never followed through, and a younger sister who got all the attention with her bright smiles and easy laughter. From a young age, I learned not to ask for much. "We don't have extra," Dad would say, his voice gravelly from exhaustion, as he handed me a worn backpack for school. I took it without complaint, tucking away my wants like folded notes in a drawer. Instead, I hustled. At 12, I mowed lawns after school, the grass clippings sticking to my sweaty skin under the summer sun. By 16, I was waitressing at the local diner, counting tips in crumpled bills, saving every penny in a jar hidden under my bed. My parents noticed, I think, but they never probed. "Good for you, staying independent," Mom would murmur, patting my shoulder with a distracted hand while she fussed over my sister's dance recital costumes. I didn't mind. It built something in me, a quiet resolve, like the steady tick of the old wall clock in our kitchen during late-night study sessions. I went to community college on scholarships, worked 2 jobs, graduated with a business degree. No loans from them, no handouts. I built my online marketing firm from a laptop in a cramped apartment, turning late nights into a thriving business. Clients came, money grew, but I kept it modest around family. Visits home meant simple gifts, a basket of fruit, a new tool for Dad, not flaunting. They assumed I was scraping by, and I let them. Why burden them with my wins when they had their own struggles? But then, the first hint of change crept in like a chill draft under the door. It started with phone calls. Mom's voice, usually warm but weary, took on a sharper edge. "Things are tight here, you know," she'd say, pausing just long enough for the unspoken ask to hang in the air. I offered small help, a check for groceries, paid anonymously through my sister, but never revealed the full picture. Dad mentioned retirement looming, his cough worsening from years on the factory floor, and how my brother had lost another job. I listened, heart aching, but held back. "I'll see what I can do," I'd reply, my fingers tracing the edge of my desk, feeling the smooth wood that represented years of unseen effort. Yet, something felt off. My sister started dropping hints too, casual mentions of vacations they couldn't afford, her eyes flicking away when I asked about her own life. I brushed it aside at first, telling myself it was just family worry. But the calls increased, the tones more insistent, like a distant thunder rolling closer. I began to wonder if they sensed something, if my careful facade was cracking. The real fracture came on a Sunday in late autumn. I had driven the 3 hours home unannounced, just wanting to sit with them over coffee, feel the familiar creak of the porch steps under my shoes, smell the faint wood smoke from the neighbor's chimney. I let myself in with the spare key that still hung on the same rusty nail by the back door. The house was quiet, too quiet. No radio playing old country tunes, no clatter of dishes. I found them in the living room, the 3 of them, Mom, Dad, and my sister, huddled around the coffee table like conspirators. Papers were spread out. Bank statements, a glossy real estate flyer for a condo development downtown. My father's reading glasses perched low on his nose. They startled when I appeared in the doorway. Mom's hand flew to her chest. "You didn't say you were coming," she said, but her eyes darted to the papers, then back to me. Dad cleared his throat, the sound rough and deliberate. My sister folded her arms tight across her sweater, lips pressed thin. I set the grocery bag I'd brought, fresh bread, cheese, the kind of small things I always carried, on the side table. "Thought I'd surprise you," I said softly. "Everything okay?" Silence stretched. The wall clock ticked louder than it should have. Dad finally spoke, voice low. "We've been looking at our options. Retirement's closer than we thought. The factory's cutting shifts again." He tapped one of the statements. "We're short. More than short." I nodded slowly. "I know it's been tough. I can help with—" "No." Mom cut in, sharper than I'd ever heard her. "Not little bits here and there. We need real help. You've been doing well, haven't you? All those late nights, all that independent talk. We're family. Family helps family." My stomach twisted. Not because of the words, but the way they looked at me, like I owed them an explanation for breathing easier than they did. I sat down across from them. "I've never asked you for anything," I said carefully. "I never wanted to be a burden." Dad's jaw worked. "And we never asked you to hide how much you've got socked away either." That was when my sister slid the printed article across the table. A business journal profile, my company's latest round of funding, the valuation they'd slapped on it. 7 figures. Not obscene, but solid. Real. The number stared up at me like an accusation. You could have told us, she whispered. Instead you let us think you were barely making rent. I looked at each of them. Mom's eyes were wet, but not with sadness, with something harder. Dad's hands were clenched on his knees. My sister wouldn't meet my gaze. I didn't hide it to hurt you, I said. My voice sounded small in the room. I wanted it to be mine first. Something I built without anyone's help. Without anyone expecting it to fix their problems. Mom let out a short, bitter laugh. And what are we? Strangers. The air felt thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. I could smell the faint lemon polish Mom still used on the furniture, the same scent from my childhood. It should have comforted me. Instead it made my throat close. Dad stood up slowly. We raised you, fed you, kept a roof over your head. And when we needed you most, you kept your success in the shadows like it was shameful. I felt tears burn behind my eyes, but I blinked them back. I offered before. Small things. You never took them seriously. And I didn't want to become the family ATM. The word hung there, ugly, honest. My sister finally looked at me. We talked about selling the house, she said quietly. Moving somewhere cheaper. Dad's cough is worse. Mom's arthritis. We thought maybe you'd step up if we showed you how bad it was. I stared at her. You were waiting for me to beg you to take my money? No one answered. I stood up. The room felt smaller than it ever had. I love you, I said, and my voice cracked just once. But I won't be punished for succeeding on my own. I walked out without another word. The screen door slapped shut behind me. Rain had started again, soft and steady, drumming on the tin roof of the old shed. I sat in my car for a long minute, hands gripping the wheel, listening to the windshield wipers thump back and forth like a heartbeat too fast to calm. I didn't go back the next weekend, or the one after. The silence between us grew thick and heavy, like fog that settles in the valleys and refuses to lift. My phone stayed quiet, no calls, no texts, no "we miss you" messages. Only once did my sister send a single line. Dad's appointment went okay. Thanks for nothing. I read it, felt the familiar ache bloom in my chest, then set the phone face down on the kitchen counter. The coffee I just poured went cold untouched. Word travels fast in small towns. A cousin who still worked at the factory mentioned to my father that I'd landed a big corporate client. Something he'd seen on LinkedIn. From there, it spread. The article my sister had printed wasn't the only one. Someone at church forwarded a local business spotlight that mentioned my name and the numbers attached to it. By Thanksgiving, the whispers had turned into open conversation. My mother's bridge club friends started asking her why her successful daughter wasn't helping with the medical bills. My father's old coworkers patted him on the back at the diner and said things like, "You must be proud," with just enough edge to make it sting. Then came the family gathering I wasn't invited to. My brother hosted it at his new rental, a place he could suddenly afford after a little family help came through. Photos appeared on my aunt's Facebook. The whole clan around a table piled with food, my parents smiling tightly in the center. No empty chair for me, just a noticeable gap. Someone commented, "Where's your girl?" Mom replied with a vague emoji and nothing else. I saw the post late one night, scrolling in the dark. The glow of the screen lit my face while rain tapped against the window like impatient fingers. I felt something shift. Not anger exactly, but a quiet, final letting go. They had chosen the story they wanted to tell. The ungrateful daughter who hoarded her blessings while her parents suffered. It was easier than admitting they'd never really asked me directly until the resentment had already hardened. A few weeks later, the consequences landed harder than I expected. My father's factory announced early retirement packages, voluntary, but with pressure. He took it, thinking the severance would bridge the gap. Didn't. The medical costs kept climbing. My sister's car broke down again, and this time there was no quick fix for me. Word got around that the rich sister had cut them off. Neighbors who used to wave now looked away. My mother stopped going to bridge club for a while. She said the questions had become too pointed. I heard all this secondhand, from the same cousin who still texted me updates, torn between loyalty and guilt. "They talk about you like you betrayed them," he wrote once. "But they never tell the part where they never once said, 'We're proud.'" I didn't gloat. There was no satisfaction in watching slow erosion. Only a deep, tired sadness. I kept working, kept building, but the victories felt quieter now. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand why love and money twist so easily into weapons. One evening in early spring, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was Dad. His voice sounded smaller, thinner, the gravel worn down. "We're selling the house," he said without preamble. "Moving to an apartment closer to the clinic. Your mother. She's struggling with the stairs. I stayed quiet, listening to him breathe. I'm not calling to ask for money, he continued. I wanted you to know, and maybe to say I'm sorry. We didn't handle it right. We saw the number and forgot the person behind it. I closed my eyes. The kitchen light buzzed faintly overhead. Outside, birds were returning, their calls sharp against the dusk. I'm sorry too, I said, for letting silence grow between us instead of talking sooner. We didn't fix everything that call. There was no tearful reunion, no promise to make it all right. But the line stayed open. A few weeks later, I sent a check. Not huge, not showy, just enough to cover the moving costs and the first few months' rent. No note attached. They didn't thank me directly, but my sister texted a photo of the new place. Clean, small, sunlight coming through plain curtains. Under it, 3 words. It's peaceful here. I'm still learning what family means when trust has been chipped away. Some breaks don't heal clean. They leave scars that ache when the weather changes. But I've stopped hiding my life to protect theirs. And they've stopped expecting me to carry what they never taught me how to share. Success doesn't make you less of a daughter. Silence doesn't make you more of a parent. And love, real love, should never come with a ledger attached. If you've ever felt the weight of being punished for standing on your own 2 feet, or if you've ever let pride stop you from asking for what you truly needed, tell me in the comments below. Did the silence speak louder than the words you never said? This is Broken Trust Stories. If a story like this ever helped you feel less alone, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There are more voices out there waiting to be heard.